Do you remember about 5 to 6 months ago when I did a video just like this showing you the graphics power of the iPod Touch 5th generation? Now, we're visiting this again with more updated tests 6 months later, 5 to 6 months. But regardless, this is going to be an updated test following that, showing you guys how the iPod Touch 5th generation stacks up now in June of 2013 compared to December of 2012. So let's go ahead and go into performance tests. This is GFX Benchmark 2.7.2, which is a free application available in the App Store. You guys can simply search GFX Bench and you'll be sure to get a result that is similar to this. 2.7.2 is the version of this application, and it is free if you want to test this out on your own device. So let's start off with GFX Bench 2.5 Egypt HD. Now this is the test that I ran in December of 2012 when I made a video about it. So let's go ahead and run it again 6 months later to see how it stacks up. So let's go ahead and start it, and we're going to have to rotate the device this way and show you guys how it compares. I apologize for any glare, but the screen is black as of now, so I guess there's nothing really to do about it. So now we have it loading right here, and you can see it's playing relatively smoothly. Yeah, there's not really much of a frame drop. So far, it just looks pretty smooth. Although I wouldn't say it's really liquid smooth. It does have, as you can see when it's panning, it does have quite a lot of jutters right there, and it does stutter and sort of lag when things are introduced, such as these opponents that are, I believe, going to fight us pretty soon. But as you can see, when panning, it does really lag, and I would say that's about 10 FPS when panning. Right now, I'd say it's about 25 FPS right now, so it's above playable if this was a real game, although it is pretty laggy 6 months later. Now, I'll link the video in the description below where I did it 6 months back, and you can watch that entire video where I showed the exact results of the same exact test, just to see how it compares and how the device has slowed down over the past 6 months. So if you guys want to check that out, go ahead and look in the description for the link of the video that I did 6 months prior. So let's go ahead and see the results, as I think this is the end. Yes, okay. So we got an average of 19 FPS, which is, in a video game, playable. In my opinion, anything below 13 FPS is not playable. I can play a game at 15 FPS, but I never really have to. But if I'm playing a really intensive game on my friend's outdated computer, then it would probably be playable under 15 FPS. 13 to 15 is still playable for me, but below 13 I probably couldn't handle it. So in comparison, 19 FPS is okay. Granted, it's not good. Anything above 30 FPS, 30 and above, is considered good and smooth, but this cannot be considered smooth. So 19 FPS, I'm not sure what I did prior in the last test that I did last time, like 6 months ago, but again, I'll probably put the result in the description along with the video link. So now let's start GFX Bench 2.7 T-Rex HD. This is the new benchmark that is relatively new. Now the 2.5 Egypt HD is almost a year old in benchmarking, so now we're going to do a more updated one. We're going to do the on-screen one, although most of the time on-screen results in lower FPS, but we actually want to see how well it's performing, so we're going to click on-screen. So this is going to be more intensive, presumably, and you are correct if you did presume that. The 2.7 is going to be more intensive than 2.5, and that'll probably result in even laggier gaming. So let's go ahead and start the benchmark so we can see what's going on here. Now, I know how well this test performs, and I'm going to tell you it performs at about 6 FPS on average, so This test is frankly too much for this device to handle, and it's basically outdated right now with its dual-core A5 chip running at 800 megahertz, I believe. Yeah, 799 megahertz. So it's not really that fast anymore. So hopefully we do see a new update for the iPod Touch. Hopefully we'll be seeing an iPod Touch 6th generation come October. I really hope. With that new 16 gigabyte iPod Touch 5th generation, I don't know how they're going to be announcing one 3 months from now or 4 months from now, but hopefully they do. Hopefully the 16 gig iPod Touch 5th generation isn't a sign that we won't be seeing a 6th generation for a while, because I mean they can't leave us with outdated specs, or they can in order to force us to buy an iPad or iPhone, but I don't really think they'll be cruel enough to do that. Well, it is Apple, but anyway. So that was the end of the benchmark. Not as long as what we saw in 2.5. As you can see, we averaged 5.8 FPS, which is unplayable in games. You cannot really play a game at 5.8 or 6 FPS. It pretty much is just a lagapalooza. What? Yeah, so it is really laggy when playing at 6 FPS. You probably couldn't play at 6 FPS. In fact, I'm pretty sure none of you can. 6 FPS is pretty unplayable. So I'll show you what we got again. 5.8 FPS, 325 frames throughout the entire thing, which isn't that good for however long that was. I believe that was a minute and a half. Let's see. That was about a minute. Okay. Just over a minute. Yeah, I was just doing the math, dividing 325 by 5.8, but about a minute. And showing 325 frames isn't that good at all. Now, I'm not sure if being jailbroken affected the kernel and sort of slowed down my my gaming in a way, but I highly doubt that, as I did read up of other people's results, and they got around 6 like I did. So being jailbroken doesn't affect that at all. It's just the sad fact that the iPod Touch 5th generation is becoming slow in the gaming world, in the mobile gaming world. As a gaming console, a gaming handheld, it still does really, really well. I'm not saying it doesn't do well, but as far as an MP3 player, it does exceed what anyone would call an MP3 player to exceed for, you know? Nobody thinks of an MP3 player as a gaming device, and this is a gaming device when thinking about that. So if you're thinking of a dedicated handheld gaming console, the iPod Touch 5th generation is probably your best bet for hardcore gaming, although the PS Vita is probably your better bet in that case. But if the PS Vita is out of your league and you want to get cheaper games, I could still recommend the iPod Touch 5th generation for gaming, even when it does pale in comparison to phones, dedicated phones. But again, if you're buying an iPod Touch 5th generation, you're probably not looking for a phone. You probably already have a basic phone that can do things. You just want something to play music and take with you along the go. So if you were surprised at how, I don't know, how mediocre it performs, then go ahead and comment down below on your thoughts if you believe that it would perform better on these tests. The iPhone 5 on the latter tests scores 14 FPS, so this scores 6, and the iPhone 5 scores 14 FPS. So I'll give you an idea, even though the iPhone 5 is mediocre at 14 FPS, with an intensive test like that, 14 FPS is pretty good. So yeah, the iPod Touch 5th generation is paling in comparison to other phones and stuff, but this isn't a phone, you gotta remember that. And also, I don't think we'll be seeing games that intensive anytime soon in the App Store like we did on Geo Benchmark. Thank you guys for watching, and I'll catch you all in the next video. You all take care. Have a nice day.